Hey, welcome back to math. Today we're going to deal more with decimals and fractions and percents. So what we're going to do today, or what you're going to be able to do, is learn to write decimals and fractions into a percent. That's what we're going to try to do. Okay, along with today's date and page number, please write this down. Okay, so in our warm-up here today, I want you to take the first two, and I want you to write them as a percent. Or, I'm sorry, as a fraction in simplest form, and the other two, turn them into decimals. Good luck. Okay, I hope your warm-up was quick and easy for you. So for number one, you can't simplify 37, so it's 37/100ths. But for number two, 78 can be divided by 2 to get 39/50ths. For number three, I moved the decimal twice. I got 0.59. And for number four, I still moved it twice, but then I had to put a 0 in there as a placeholder for 0.07. All right, now that you're all warmed up, let's get working today. Now, hopefully your eyes focus on the bottom of the screen. You see where it says 1/2 equals 0.5 or 50%. All three of these are the same. And since all three of them are the same, that shows that you can write a fraction into a decimal into a percent into fractions, and so on. So percent decimals and fractions, they appear everywhere, even in newspapers, television, all over the internet, when you're shopping. I could go on and on. To fully understand the data you see in your everyday life, you should be able to change from one form to another. And that's what we're going to go through in this lesson, is how to write a percent as a fraction or as a decimal. And I'm going to show you a couple different methods on each of them in our three examples that we're working with today. So the first example we're going to look at is how to write decimals as a percent. So taking it from here and turning it into something with a percent symbol. That's kind of what we're doing. So there's two different methods to doing this. The first one is just using a place value. So what you can do is you can write the decimal as a fraction. So I know that this is 7/10, so I could write it as 7/10. Now, from here then, I could write an equivalent fraction with 100 as the denominator. So let's say I was looking for an equivalent fraction or equivalent ratio. I have to try to get from 10 to 100. So how do I do that? Well, obviously I'm going small to big, so I'm going to have to multiply. 10 goes into 100 10 times. And what you do to the bottom, you do to the top. So 7 times 10 is 70. Okay? So now you have 70/100ths. Remember that percent means out of 100. Percent equals out of 100. So that basically means that your denominator, if it's 100, becomes your percent symbol. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 70/100ths. This is going to equal your percent symbol, and this is the number in front of it. So you get 70%. So that's how you can use the place value method, is by changing it to a fraction that's equivalent to 100 and go from there. And it should work out every time, because every place value as a fraction is a power of 10, or a negative power of 10, or tenths, hundredths, thousandths, so that works out pretty well. Okay, write that down as an example before moving on. All right, I'm going to show you a second one doing the same method. So we have 16/100ths here. So if I wanted to, I'm going to write this as a fraction of 16/100ths. Now we want to complete this by finding one that's equivalent to having a denominator of 100. Well, we already have that, so this is already your fraction. Now remember, percent, or the bottom number, the denominator, this becomes your percent symbol, 100%. You can kind of see it even has a 1 and 2 zeros. And then 16 is your number next to it. So when you're dealing with numbers into the hundredths place value, it's pretty easy. And you probably noticed this yesterday when I was showing you how to go back between the two different methods of percent and decimal. All right, catching on? If this method seems really good to you, great. Let me show you a second method that you can also use with this process. The second method deals with some multiplication and knowing your place values. It's called multiplying by 100. So here's how it works. Let's say you're given 0.4118. That's 4,118 10,000ths. To turn this really large number into a percent, all you got to do is multiply by 100. Now remember, when you multiply by 100, those two zeros in the 100 tell you how many times to move the decimal point back, because you're taking a small number and you're making it bigger because you're multiplying by a bigger number. So when you move the decimal twice, you see now the decimal point goes between the two ones. So then that's your 100%. 41 and 18 hundredths is your percentage. So again, all you have to do is just move the decimal point twice. Okay, and I'll even write that down here. Move decimal point 2 times to the right. And that will always give you the percent you're looking for. So copy that down as an example. So I'll show you again how easy this is. We just got to move the decimal point to the right, or we can multiply by 100, same thing. So move it once, move it twice. Your percent here is 6.7%. So that's all you have to do to be able to change it to a percentage. So some of these methods work better in different scenarios. That's why I want to show you both methods. All right, don't freak out by all the problems I have on the board. I'm going to have you only do part of these. The others are there in case you need extra practice. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have you do 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's all I need to see is you to change those decimals, 1, 2, 3, and 4, into percents. So move the decimal twice or find equivalent fraction, whatever you want to do. All right, so for these, I decided to use the multiply by 100 method or move the decimal twice method, however you look at it. So I moved it twice for 39 hundredths, and I got 39%. I moved it twice for 125 thousandths, so I got 12.5%. For 3, when I moved it twice, I had I had to put a 0 there as a place value, so I got 80%. So this method is really quick, and honestly, this is how fast it works for me. Move it once, twice, 60%. Move it once, twice, 55%. Move it once, twice, 34%. So it does move pretty quick when you start looking at it and just moving the decimal twice, remembering that percent means out of 100, and decimal-wise, hundredths is the second decimal point place value. All right, now in example 2, we're going to try to take a fraction and turn it into a percent. So the first method is kind of like the first method of decimals to a percent. We got to take 9/25ths here, and we have to get an equivalent fraction with 100. So all we got to do is take 9/25ths and try to get to 100 here. Well, 25 times what gives you 100? You know that to be 4. So what you do at the bottom, you do the top, and 9 times 4 is 36. So you get 36 100ths. And remember, the percent symbol is based on the 100 there. So if we just write the decimal there, your numerator then becomes the percent that gets filled in. So that's how easy it is to see that 9/25ths is actually 36%. This method works pretty good if you can find a number that goes into 100 exactly. Write this down if you'd like. Now, although I know 20 goes into 100 evenly, I want to use this to show you the second method, which is just doing division. So to be able to find a percent, all you have to do is division. Let me show you how it works. You're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. So it looks weird, but you're going to put the 20 into 3. Now we know 20 won't go into 3, so now we have to add a decimal and a 0. I'm going to put a 0 there, and I know that 20 goes into 30 once. So 20 times 30, or 20 times 1 is 30. When we subtract, we have 0. Or 10, sorry. Now I have a remainder, so what I have to do is add another 0, bring it down, and see if I can find a number that 20 goes into 100. It does. 20 goes into 100 5 times, so 20 times 5 is 100. Now look at this. Now we have a decimal, and we've dealt with this already, and all you have to do then is move the decimal point 2 times to the right, once, twice, and there's your percentage, 15%. So all you have to do is move it twice, and you got your percentage. So this method works real quick too once you get practice with it, and it's a great method to use, especially if your denominator on the fraction does not go into 100 equally. So copy this down as well. All right, so for practice, I only want you to do the underlying numbers, which are all the even numbers. And again, you can use each method, whichever method works best for you. I do notice that 16, 18, 20, 24, they all go into 100 evenly. 16, I don't know. So you'd have to use the method that works best for you. So I will do 16 with you. So pause if you want to try that and then come back and see if you got it. So for this one, I'm going to use the fractional or the division method. I know 5 won't go into 3, and it's never going to work every time because we're trying to get you to write a percent. 5 goes into 30 6 times, and that's it. So remember, all I have to do then is once I figure out the decimal, I move the decimal point twice to the right, I add a 0, and your answer for 16 is 60%. That's all you got to do. Okay, good luck. Come back when you're done with the other problems. We'll see how you did. All right, so you can see for 16, I already did that one. For 18 and 20, I went ahead and I just made an equivalent fraction to 100, and my numerator told me the percent. And then for 22 and 24, I divided those. 22 took a little bit of work, had to add extra zeros, but it did come out to be 68 and 75 hundredths. And for 24, I divided 5 into 2, which didn't work, so I had to add a decimal. 5 went into 24 times. Added the 0 when I moved the decimal point twice, and I got 40%. So I hope you got the same answers that I did. That means you're getting it. If you didn't, there's other problems up there we can try together to really get some extra practice. I encourage you to come to me if we need to do that. Okay, so I skipped example 3 because it's just using it in word problems. You'll see those. So I'll go ahead and finish off these 3 box of thought questions, and then we can move on. And here's your quiz. You got 5 problems. I do have one down there that you can think of as a word problem, but really, just look at what it's looking for. All right, and that's it for your lesson today. See you next time.